we'll start with our program now. The first part is going to be something that I'm calling our Origins panel. And we'll hear from some of the people who were working on the Institute long before it was a gleam in anybody's eye. And to lead this discussion, I'm going to call on Christine Black, who's the Director of Communications at the Woods Institute, a position she's held since 2012. Chris is a veteran journalist and communications specialist. She's worked extensively in both print and broadcast media and has worked in university and nonprofit and for-profit company public relations, as well as communications. Chris is responsible for everything that we do that makes us look good and not responsible for any of the things we do that make us look bad.
Jenna Davis was going to moderate this panel, and she couldn't be here today. And so I'm filling in for her, but I want to mention her because I think she's so important, has been such an integral part of the Woods experience. So we're thinking of Jenna and wishing her well. In the meantime, I'm getting ready to welcome up Buzz and Jeff and Ward Woods, who we call Woody. And should I go ahead and just start the introductions? I know we don't have a lot of time. Okay, I'm going to start going. So I think a lot of you are familiar with Buzz and Jeff, who are our founding co-directors. I'm going to give you their titles because they're important. Jeff is the William Alden Campbell and Martha Campbell Professor in the School of Engineering. He's a professor of oceans and a Woods Senior Fellow. He's an expert in the interdisciplinary domain of fluid mechanics, focusing on the near coastal ocean and environmental problems ranging from the disposal of salt water from desalination plants to the transport of plastic in the ocean. Buzz is the Robert E. Paradise Professor of Natural Resources Law, and like Jeff, a professor in the Stanford Doerr School of Sustainability. His principal focus is on freshwater, something he's worked on for 40 years, including a stint as a special master for the U.S. Supreme Court in Montana versus Wyoming, an interstate water dispute involving the Yellowstone River system. He also has a book out this year, which I should have told you to bring your book, Buzz, but
I'll bring it to them later.
Okay, all right. Good. Yeah.
What? He told me he was giving them away.
Well, actually, I will at least auction some off. But I have a pen, so I'm happy to sign them. So.
Oh, perfect. Great. We're also joined by Ward Woods. Woody is an alum. He and his wife, Priscilla, have been longtime supporters of the Institute. They are the ones who made the initial and continuing investments that launched the Institute as we know it today. Woody brought a tremendous amount of advisory experience to the Institute after serving on Stanford's Board of Trustees, on the Stanford Management Company's Board of Directors, and on the Board of Visitors for the Freeman Spogli Institute for International Studies. We were lucky that he came to us with a deep understanding of the environment as a longtime outdoorsman, conservationist, and chair emeritus for the Wildlife Conservation Society's Board of Trustees. So we're going to start by talking about where we started, and I am going to get my dad joke out of the way and say something about getting back to the roots of Woods, because I wanted to get there ahead of Jeff because he did it last time. So guys, let's talk a little bit about problems that are too complex to be solved for any one discipline alone. I've heard you say many times over the years that it's been important to have faculty from other departments get together to compare notes and learn about each other's work. But there haven't always been incentives for academics to invest their time this way. So was that a challenge that you all discussed explicitly at the beginning, and how did you tackle it?
Buzz gave me the signal to start, so I always listen to what Buzz tells me to do. First of all, before we start, I thank John Levin for invoking the memory of Don Kennedy, who was so instrumental in the founding of the Woods Institute. I also want to acknowledge Wally Falcon, who we memorialized a few weeks ago, who was also and then Peter Vatusek and Pam Matson for their role. So I just wanted to mention that. So what gets people incentivized? Well, in many ways, it goes back to Roz Naylor got people incentivized. She walked around the campus in the early 90s and persuaded a bunch of us, it didn't take much persuasion, to come to the environmental seminar, which was then being formed. And we were talking then about the big problems that we had to solve that would not yield to the knowledge of individual disciplines. And people came. In fact, we had to, at one point, it got so packed that we had to sort of restrict the attendance. So it didn't really take a lot to get people focused on talking to one another and focusing on the problems. That was great. After that, we put in place some other mechanisms through funding and stuff, but we were never undersubscribed in any of that in terms of wanting to come to the seminar and collaborate or participate in the venture funding that we created.
Yeah, so as sort of Jeff talks about the very beginning and what was really instrumental in getting us to where we are today. As Jeff noted, the other thing we did was we actually created a funding mechanism for those faculty who are interested in doing interdisciplinary problem-solving research, our Environmental Venture Project Fund, to actually encourage and reward those faculty who are willing to step forward and take a risk on these types of research projects. We also, at the same time, brought on board a new set of interdisciplinary faculty members. One of the things that John Hennessy provided us at the very outset was our first billet that we used to hire Jenna Davis. And that brought a set of faculty here who could begin to change the culture of Stanford along with the faculty who were already here and doing interdisciplinary work. But having said that, I still don't think we're quite there yet.
I agree.
I agree. Still think if you look at the way in which the departments reward faculty members, that they don't necessarily reward you for doing interdisciplinary work where you don't publish necessarily in your own journals or problem-solving research.
Well, from my point of view, I was on the board of trustees, and John Hennessy asked a group of us, Susan Orr and Vicki Sant, Bill Landreth, and myself, to look at this idea of the Stanford initiative on the environment and energy. Because initially the idea was that it would be one institute. And as the four of us, by the way, the ladies were referred to as the green ladies on the board. And we were all very enthusiastic about the idea of having an institute for the environment and energy. I have to say the focus of the four of us was mainly on the environment. And what was inspiring was the idea that there would be a multidisciplinary effort, that it would involve all 7 schools, and most importantly, that it would be solutions-oriented. That appealed to all of us, and it evolved, I think, some of the thinking that went on with regard to how to structure it. Well, it wasn't much later when, in fact, a great friend of mine, Jay Precourt, said that he was very interested in energy, but less interested in the environment, and that he would very much be interested in funding the energy initiative as long as it was separate. And initially, President Hennessy was not enthusiastic about that. But after a while, it worked. And so we embarked on the Woods Institute for the Environment and the Precourt Institute for Energy. And the four of us who were on the Board of Trustees joined the Woods Institute board. I joined both boards. And the rest is history.
So, Woody, you know, I've heard Buzz and Jeff talk a lot about the need to create, the needs for strategic planning, and how in the early days there was a need for a business plan.
That was the same way he laughed when we came in with our first strategic plan.
Yeah.
Well, it was a little louder than that.
Well, whenever we do strategic planning, I think about it. So tell us more about what you wanted to see in a business plan for the Woods Institute.
You know, an initial part from the very beginning, an appealing part was the fact that this was going to create a number of environmental venture projects. Well, if you've had anything to do with the venture business, you got to know where you're going, or think you know where you're going, and you have to plan and relate your ambitions to your resources, which was, as I learned, something new for the team. And I'm not sure we ever really got there, but we got closer. And the strategic plan was clear. There were a lot of unknowns in the beginning. You know, what would be the excitement among faculty for doing environmental venture projects? Would we be faced with a lot of choices or a few choices? Frankly, we were all delighted, because I think the response from the faculty was just fabulous. And we had an abundance of opportunities. So that solved the fundamental problem.
Buzz, what was the challenge? No, you get to go first this time.
Okay.
What was one of the challenges that you had while trying to develop that plan, and has that gotten easier, do you think?
It was exactly what he just said. It was focusing. I mean, Jeff and I came in for the first day when we were working with Lee and with Chip Heath in the business school to put together a business plan for the Institute. Neither Jeff nor I had ever put together a business plan. To my knowledge, no one in the academic world up until that point had put together a business plan. So, you know, one of the things was, okay, well, what are you going to focus on? What issues are you going to focus on? So we started listing things, and fairly quickly we had a list of like 20 things that we were going to focus on. And Chip Heath said, no.
Pick three.
Pick three. You have to have three, and only three. And you can just imagine for two academics how hard that was, right? Just choose three things. And we still didn't succeed. We sort of had big categories. So if you had 20 things, you combine those 20 things into three categories, which was when we took it to Woody, he was initially not pleased.
Well,
So look, I mean, the challenge is, at the same time as trying to build the Institute, we're trying to build an environmental community, coherent. We're trying to be as inclusive as possible, right? And everybody at that time had great ideas, and they all came forward, and they all had expectations that their ideas were the right ones, and we should go forward with their ideas. So this exercise of picking three, I mean, and picking three for everything. You'd say, who's your strategic threats? We'd have 20. You'd say, pick three. We call it the pick three meeting. But we came out of that meeting, even though we might not have succeeded exactly, with an incredible feeling of being liberated, of having permission to actually focus, which was so necessary. And I think we then embarked on this very good strategy. It didn't always work, of having strategic goals, 3 or whatever it is, 4. Mm-hmm. But always being flexible enough to take advantage of opportunities when they came along, sort of this 80-20 model. And I think by and large it worked pretty well.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great segue to talk about what's next. Thinking through what you all would like to see in the future for Woods and what the big opportunities are. Who wants to tackle that one first?
Well, let me say that probably the most important part of the success of the Woods Institute has been its leadership. Buzz and Jeff, and now Chris. And I can't tell you how important that has been. And so I do want to compliment the 3 of them, because it really has, the Institute has grown dramatically, as you probably all know, and it's tackling very difficult problems. And as Jeff used to tell me, organizing faculty is like herding cats. And that the fact that there was such enthusiasm over this entire period of time for our environmental venture projects and then our RAIP projects has really been a testament to the leadership. And looking to the future, Chris, I think we have great leadership intact, and I'm looking forward to more of it, and I think we all are. So I really think it's people, as it is with almost all organizations.
Yeah, I guess I would add two things. The first thing is, it's not as if we've solved all environmental problems. We have made huge progress through the EVP and REIP programs, through all the various centers that now exist within the Woods Institute, but the problems seem to simply grow in size. And I think the Woods Institute is critical in helping to solve those in two ways. First, are the programs that do exist, like EVP and REIP. And those have served us well in the past and will continue to do so in the future. And then the other thing I would say is that we have the Door School now, which is absolutely fantastic because the Door School brings together faculty from multiple disciplines. Right? So I'm now actually a faculty member in the Door School, so I'm part of that interdisciplinary community. But there's still a lot of people who can help solve environmental problems that are outside of the Door School and other parts of the university. There are also people who are in policy positions or business positions outside of Stanford that need to be part of this. And one of the things that the Woods Institute has done so effectively is always pull in the people that are needed, even if they are not part of the local administrative unit, and collaborate to solve problems. And so I think the Woods Institute is needed even more today than it was in the past.
Yeah, I agree completely. And Buzz, in fact, said something that I would have liked to have said as well, and will say, and that is, I was on the committees, the four committees. Scott Fendorf is laughing there; he was there too, and that helped design, the Door School, and we came up with this model for the school of rows and columns, where the columns would be the departments and the rows would be the institutes, and it was important then that we had this, and that's where the Woods Institute's role is so critical, that it integrates the knowledge across all the different disciplines. We have disciplinary strength, but we still have this incredibly important integrator, which is the Woods Institute. Moreover, as Buzz says, it integrates beyond the boundaries of the school and reaches into the other schools at Stanford and brings the other faculty who might not have chosen to be part of the Door School, brings them into the workings and the activities of the Door School, which is so important. And then it goes even further than that and reaches beyond the boundaries of Stanford and goes and connects us with people all over the world in different institutions, which is so important. So if anything, I think the Woods Institute's role going forward is going to be even more important than it has been. It's at the core of what the Door School is all about. It has a proven track record, and it's created a lot of the tools and mechanisms like the uncommon dialogues and things like that are going to be so important for the work of the Door School going forward. So I'm incredibly bullish, Chris, about the future of the Woods Institute. I think it's great.
Well, thanks guys so much. This has been great. I've really enjoyed working with all of you for the last 12 years, and I can't wait to see what we do next. So thank you so much. Let's give them a hand here.